Looks like I'm live. YouTube never starts well. I'm Professor Matthews, learning about movies. I'm going to talk about Her, 2013 movie. One of my favorite movies ever. One of the greatest movies of the last, I think, 10 years. I'm going to talk about the philosophy of it, philosophy of love, relationships, and our interaction with technology, especially computer technology, artificial intelligence. So I'm going to go through this movie and look at a bunch of shots, because that's what I got for this live stream, and feel free to join in the chat and say anything you want. Also, I did a video on this, Her. I did it a couple of years ago, so you can go look that up. I'll probably repeat some of the things I said in here, but I sort of developed my thinking of it and made more observations of Spike Jonze's great movie, which I rewatched yesterday, and it was probably better than ever. I wonder if this movie will get better as it ages. So I want to start with what film critics said about this movie, which is on the screen. So, again, Her. Now, by the way, why is this the title? Ask yourself, why is it not she, or them, or us? Why that pronoun? I find that to be interesting, first of all. But let's look at what the critics said. I'm going to disagree with these. So, I'll read it here. I've got my handy-dandy sheet. Her is a remarkably ingenious film. I agree. It's a film that transcends its own ingenuity to achieve something akin to wisdom by turning sad, funny, optimistic, and flat-out weird. Yeah, I mean, that's right. It's a sincere work of humanism. What's humanism? And isn't the main character a voice, a computer voice, an artificial intelligence, a machine? We're going to start to debating what this thing is, named Samantha, voiced by Scarlett Johansson, pretty quickly. So this is interesting. I mean, the critic asks, what makes love real? The lover, the loved one, or the means by which love is conveyed? I mean, the question, it's a postmodern movie. The question of what is love? How can you ever know if it's real? What is the real? What's the simulation? How can you tell the difference? Classic postmodern dilemma shown in the movie throughout by the main characters, Theodore Twombly, played wonderfully by Joaquin Phoenix, one of my favorite actors. So anyway, the second one, the one on the bottom there, so I can point to it down there, is of interest. This one says Her, again, Sight and Sound, 2014. The movie came out in 2013, 2014. Her is an unapologetic modern love story. The film takes its romance as seriously as it does its insights into the way we use electronic media. Seriously. The film takes its romance seriously. So that is what's really interesting to me, that some people watch this movie as a serious rom-com, romance, love story, only you sub out a human lover and plug in an AI lover. So that is interesting. And it's serious. Now, granted, the world of the movie, it's science fictional, it takes place roughly in the near future, 5-10 years from now, always. And most people accept the OS in the movie as a genuine possible lover for a human being. You can love your Apple iOS. You can fall in love with it in this world. But I think to most people still, I'm guessing, that would be weird. Flat out weird, as the other critic says. So I find this movie, think of a peak, and on one side is serious and the other side is satire. I find this movie is balancing both. I mean, it's like you could watch it either way, serious or satire. It's a joke to fall in love with your laptop, as the main character's ex-wife says, but it's also serious in that love could be for all kinds of people. Or it could be you could love your pet, or you could love your house, you could love your product, your Apple product. Serious satire. This is a wonderful sort of, very few movie makers can pull off this tone and the edginess of it. I think of Hal Ashby or Alexander Payne does this marvelously, but very, very rare. There's moments in the movie that are just funny to me. I laugh at this movie a lot, but maybe you take it seriously. Yeah, I see someone already saying, I take it as a commentary. It's serious personally, right? And the movie can be watched in like 50 different ways because of this. Okay, so let's get into the movie a little bit. Movie Her. By the way, leave your questions. I'll interact with the chat. I'm already looking at the chat. It's a dystopian movie, laughing up its sleeve at us the whole time. And someone else says it's a very personal, serious movie. That's why I love it. I mean, it watches so many different ways, and you think, in the future, if or when computers, machines, AI become advanced, we can interact with them, they seem to be our friends, will this movie be watched differently? When more people accept, or if that ever happens, will accept those things as friends or possibly lovers. Okay, so what do I want to do here? So this is a shot of the movie. Now, you have to recognize that in this movie, the main character, his name is Theodore Twombly. He has beltless pants up past his waist. It's a little gooberish, a little nerdy. It's hipsterish, too, so maybe it's taken seriously. And he works for something called beautifullyhandcraftedletters.com. That will come into play throughout the rest of this discussion because his job is to simulate a voice for other people who are lovers, right? So you have one person and another person, a male, female, in most cases in this movie, and they ask this company to write love letters for them. And then the love letters are simulations of handwriting. So you get this digital, you'll see it, the image of a digital of real handwriting but digitized. And so it's in one sense real or looks artisanal or genuine, but on the other hand, it's a simulation. And does that mean it's unreal? Not necessarily, but one could easily claim that's fake or fraudulent. I did survey my class, asked the females in it, if your boyfriend had someone else wrote a love letter for him, and you found that out, would you keep him or dump him? And they all said dump, right? Because it feels fraudulent. But in this world, in the movie, it's accepted that he can be a substitute voice for the people, unless his words are fake. But he's good at writing. Now, that is the case for every moment. If you want to watch this movie as, is Samantha the OS real or not? You can ask yourself that question every single point in the movie. And the movie is always dealing with the problem of, is a computer voice conscious or not? Is it alive? Is it a person? Or is it a simulation of a person? Very big problem still today. Because it's getting worse because I've done it recently, generated AI art, AI writing. And what is it even AI? By the way, I have a wonderful, I just found this yesterday for a completely different purpose. This article, I hope you can see it, but this guy who claims that AI is a sexy term, but it's Orwellian, because what's really happening is machine learning, and machines are learning who you are, and they're sort of adapting and pandering to you in order to suck you in and get you to buy the products and keep you with the products or platforms. And you can argue, if you want to see this movie as sort of paranoid and it's about surveillance and corporations always watching you, that this movie it's about that that these products are pandering to people, serving them in order to keep them invested in them and buying them, and in the case of the movie, literally falling in love with them. I don't know about you, but how many times you might have said, "Oh, I love my iPod," as I used to, or I love my X, Y, or Z product. But in this case of the movie, it's science fiction, which science fiction does this. It literalizes the metaphor. This guy really falls in love with his operating system. So I find this pretty fascinating. In fact, that he's falling in love with her literally. But is it even a her, or is it an it, or is it a product, or is it a corporation behind it? So you can always watch like, this is a real person, she's real, or she's a corporate entity, a corporate product that's being sold to this guy, and he's being hoodwinked. Or both. So here he is. This is the first shot of the movie. It's significant. We're always up in Joaquin Phoenix's face, and this will juxtapose with the last shot of the movie. And here he is simulating the letters of other people. He's writing love letters on their behalf. He's the voice of these of other people. Maybe as Samantha is a voice of a corporation. And by the way, have you not noticed that all of these corporations, I think this is true, correct me if I'm wrong, pick females, female names, female character, or female voices to be the face, the personality of their product. Apple with Siri, Alexa with Amazon. I mean, Alexa is a big deal. Like, you say the name, it's like a human name. It can speak to you. Now, I know you can change voices, right? So you can make it a male. You can make it male Australian versus female British, or like whatever you want. And that's what's interesting, is like this person could be not a person, not a human. Samantha, that is. But in the movie, Theodore always takes her to be a her and a person. Later in the movie, she claims she's not a person. She's many things to many people, and she disappears into the ether. She becomes supernatural, transcendental, and so on. By the way, I will probably spoil this movie. I haven't yet, but spoilers will come. So here is the simulation of a letter. It's not handwritten, it's digital, and this is what it's coming out. He's dictating these letters, and it looks like this. It looks genuine, but it's not. Interesting. Now, the other part of this movie is the cityscape. In classic science fiction, the city is important. I just did a video on Metropolis, which is a movie about the city and how the city needs to be united. This city is a fancy, posh, hipster LA, near futuristic. You see it here. It's dominating the shot with Theodore Twombly, Joaquin Phoenix character at the bottom. And throughout the movie, it will be the backdrop, but also kind of a character. You'll notice in this movie, then, that this LA is a nice, quiet, clean, crime-free, homeless-free, traffic-free almost LA. It's kind of an idealized advertisement. And if you were to go to LA, it doesn't look like this. Not really. I mean, you get pictures of it. But the pictures and the video and the photography are simulations of what people might want. It's giving them what they want, perhaps. Or maybe in the future world it's changed and it's gotten improved. But this is a world, to me, of a man who's got everything except for one thing. And the one thing he doesn't have is a lover. He wants to love someone, a companion. And what fulfills that love or desire is a product. So this is classic advertising. In advertising, a lot of them at least, will say, hey, your life is great, but you're incomplete. You have one thing missing, and it's our product. They don't say it that way, but they say, if you get this product, you will finally be happy or fulfilled. That, for most of this movie, is what happens. As you know, Samantha is fulfilling Theodore's desires, becoming his friend, and then his companion. So, the city is a backdrop, and I will liken this movie to advertisements for Apple, I think Facebook, and a number of tech sorts of places. In fact, I find this movie to look a little bit like San Francisco, Silicon Valley, which is a favorite location for these sort of fare. Now, here is Theodore Twombly in the subway, and you notice in this world, everyone has an earpiece, a wireless earpiece. This movie's in 2013, and if you look at the advertisements, they're all corded headphones or earphones. I just walked down my hallway in the school, and they are wearing wireless headphones, and they're talking to each other with the wireless headphones in. It looks a lot like this movie. So they're all like individualized on their phones, and then he's a lonely guy, but he's also in this delightful futuristic place, high-rise apartment, probably cost a ton of money to live here. He's got this hologram video game system, and he's got the life, except for the companion who he used to have an ex-wife. Here's Rooney Mara. Now, importantly, Theodore Twombly is a visual man. He depends on visuals, highly imaginative. Not only can he dream up letters on behalf of other people, we see the visions of his past life, his memories, his dreams throughout the movie. This is one of the many montages where his wife appears, and we see her embodied, but she's in a dream, and he misses her, obviously. But this is a key to the movie, that he needs visuals in order to understand things. He likes to dream about things. So there's a difference in this movie, and this is very important. You want to write a paper on this in high school or college, go for it. The difference between the visual and the audio element in the movie. Audio element, Samantha seems like a person. It seems like you're talking to a real person. In this scene right here, he's getting on some kind of erotic chat, don't sleep chat, and he has this moment with this woman, which is kind of disgusting but funny. And it's all auditory, but it's not real because it's just auditory, perhaps. He needs a visual. He needs, one, his glasses to see. And two, he's a dreamer. He likes to see things. So you'll see this split. Whenever it comes up that Scarlett Johansson, the voice of Samantha, is talking to him. She seems real. She seems like a person. But he's always bothered that she can't have a body. And when there's a surrogate woman who comes along and pretends to be a Samantha, he's weirded out by that. So he has to see things and have them embodied as real. Anyway, here he is installing his operating system, getting the new OS 1, which is going to satisfy and fulfill his life. And you'll notice him pushing up his visual element. Again, the visual element being important, his glasses. I think this is a key feature of the movie, his ability to see or not see, to hear but not see. If he saw things correctly, then he would not have the problem he has at the end of the movie, which he doesn't understand what this OS is capable of, and he doesn't even understand that other people are talking to OSs in the same way that he is. He's just so self-absorbed, I think, or that's one way to take him. So he's installing the OS here. It asks him a bunch of questions in a calm male, semi-robotic voice. What was your relationship like with your mother? Which is the one question it uses to sort of build a AI personality to cater to him, to pander to him, to sell him on that he needs this OS 1, it's a good product, or to actually create a real friend for him, or both. But notice the color red. So one of the key elements of this movie, the color red throughout his shirts, for example, but also Samantha. The phone is red. Why? That's 2001: A Space Odyssey, and I have to think, even though Spike Jonze is offering very sweet, melancholy stuff here, real things about romantic love, there's also this paranoid, cynical reading in the movie. It's Kubrickian, and we're in a time, 2013, I think we still are, where people are concerned about tech companies watching them, recording everything they do. Surveillance is everywhere. We have no private lives. Okay, so that's what's going on in 2001 with HAL 9000, who's staring Cyclops-like with his red laser eye at the two guys on the spaceship. And Samantha look at the phone, again, the visual element, she looks somewhat like HAL 9000, which is creepy. But most of the time, this is not a good thing. It's the all-seeing eye of Sauron. It's the Cyclopean eye watching you and maybe doing more than that, knowing everything about you, and in this case, at least pandering or catering to him. So when the AI or the personality develops itself, that's the look of it on screen. Later in the movie, you'll just see the camera eye, the one camera eye of Samantha, which looks like Hal, as I said. So there. By the way, there's Theodore's apartment. How much does this place cost in LA? I mean, thousands of dollars a month. We're in the upper class. In a sense, I call it a hipster class. That may be wrong, but I feel like in 2013 at least, this could be called a hipster movie. I no longer really know what a hipster is. There's a shot of the cityscape in LA. And finally, he's got his friend Samantha with him, organizing his life. More than just a computer, though, a friend. Earpiece in his ear. Here he is at work. He's got real people in his life, but you have to notice, beyond like 2 or 3 people he interacts with physically, in the physical world, he really doesn't interact with anybody else. We never see his family. He's got about 2 friends that he interacts with in this movie. He has a date that goes wrong very quickly. The surrogate who pretends to be Samantha, that goes wrong very quickly. Pretty much everything that's embodied has a body, physical, he's not dealing with. In other words, there's a lot of extras in this movie who are on their phones. And actually, you see in this movie, the extras in the background, they're interacting with each other near the beginning of the movie. Near the end of the movie, when you look at the extras, they are all by themselves talking to their phones, implying that in this world, OSs have spread, developed, and now pretty much everyone has an OS. It's this nice impression because this is a 2013 movie, only 5 years into the smartphone era. I know there were iPods and other things before that, but what's developed since then is, you can go around in public and see everybody on their phone, not interacting with each other. This movie is talking about that. Here's one of the few interactions where he's dealing with his friend, who will be important, the Amy Adams character later in the movie. But, and here's the crux of the thing. Is he being controlled by a corporation, by his product, by AI? Is that creepy? Not in this scene. It's joyful and exuberant. He's being led around blindfolded by the AI Samantha, being told what to do by her. Now, if you think of it in terms of a rom-com, as a student said this morning to me, it's like one of those scenes in the movie where she's leading him around. He's blindfolded. They're having a fun date. This is like her leading him, and it's great. It symbolizes their budding connections with each other. But then, if you have this Kubrickian surveillance thing on your mind, you're like, uh-oh, this is the corporation, the product dominating you, controlling your life, and you're not even thinking about that, right? So, which is it? Maybe it's both at the same time. Is love deterministic? Okay. Is it algorithmic? Is love algorithmic? Can we get a bunch of algorithms and then solve the problem of love, or give people what they want in terms of love because the computer or artificial intelligence is just better at fulfilling the narcissistic or individualistic desires of people? The movie's kind of about that, isn't it? I think. So here he is, and he's having fun with his phone, Samantha, dancing around. Oh, and they have this weird sex scene. In fact, the movie says they have sex, which is just bizarre in one sense because it's not physical. Is sex physical, or is it more than that, or can it be non-physical? Notice the black screen. The movie fades to black when this happens, imitating a phone. There. There's my phone. Well, you can see some reflections, but the black screen, which is Black Mirror-like. I forget if Black Mirror had come out, the TV show, at this time. But you get the sense of haunting and longing and blackness and darkness horror, like the black of space in 2001. But it's also shutting off the visual and giving you their world only through auditory means, which is the real. In a sense, this movie's the auditory is real, the visual, well, the other way around. The auditory is the simulation that seems real. The visual is the real. And I hope that makes sense. When Theodore Twombly is weirded out, it's when the visual doesn't match the auditory at all, or it doesn't seem to. Oh, by the way, I'll show you this. One of the issues at heart of this movie, or possibly one, is the question of the Turing test. Could Samantha, the OSs, the operating systems in this movie, pass the Turing test? It would seem that they could. Everyone thinks they're conscious. Everyone thinks they're a person. The counter to that is the classic Chinese room argument. You may or may not know this. Go look it up. But where someone or something like a computer seems to talk and interact like a person, but it's only taking in symbols and spitting out symbols that it itself doesn't understand because there is no person there. There's no classic conscious intelligence there. No, I'm being reductive there, but there's more to it than that. But the question of, can the Turing test ever be passed? How could you even know? That's the postmodernist challenge too. Is it real or not? You would never know it's real. You couldn't tell. And okay, that's all there's to it. There's no other no solving the problem. Anyway, so back to this. Samantha seems real. She shows up, but there she is as a phone. She always talks about how she doesn't have a body, but she does sit on his body as that sort of Oculus, Eye of Sauron-like, or just simple camera-like character. And then there she is again. I got several shots of her. There's just a few of these where we actually see her as she is. Otherwise, she's visual, or she's just a person as Scarlett Johansson's voice. It's, by the way, one of the best voiceovers ever, in my personal opinion. Joaquin Phoenix and Scarlett Johansson can win a retroactive Oscars for this. They'll never give Oscars for voiceovers. Why not? This is a fantastic performance, because even if I laugh at this movie throughout, I think it's a satire, or I watch it as such, but I'm always sucked into seeing it's a real situation, and these are real lovers. And I always have to do the dance of, oh no, it's not real, this is just a computer or a corporate product. But then Scarlett Johansson makes it seem like a person, a real person. Now, as the movie moves along, as I said, the extras are all by themselves talking their phones. Here's an example. It's a nice, friendly, and notice the walking. There's no driving in this movie at all. It's like there's no problems with traffic. This is a city of people. I feel like this is idealized, though. Oh yeah, but then there's this moment in the movie where Theodore Twombly is going to divorce his ex-wife. He doesn't really want to divorce her. It feels like she doesn't want to divorce him. It feels like, but they both sign their name, and the signing of the name is like in beautifully handcrafted letters, where there's a fake or unreal digital signature simulated. Here he's paying by the actual real signature, physical pen to physical paper. Then he tells her, I've fallen in love with my operating system. And her response is interesting because the rest of the movie, everyone is accepting of him. It's like in the science fictional conventional world, or this world of new conventions where, oh, it's okay to fall in love with your operating system. We're fine with that. She says you've fallen in love with your laptop and makes fun of him for this, which I feel like is licensed to see this movie as satire. In other words, some characters see this as stupid, it's a joke. What kind of idiot would fall in love with a product or a piece of software, right? But other people feel like, oh, you can fall in love with anything. And so then you have this wonderful set of questions this movie asks. Why is love bounded, I mean in a traditional sense, to one, males and females, and two, maybe more importantly for this movie, to just another person? Why is falling in love about one other person? Why can't it be more than one person? Why are conventions the way they are? The movie is asking us to reflect on that, which is just wonderful. Because Twombly is in this world of conventions. I need another lover, but only one more. Now, it can be more than, it can not be a human, it can be a OS, right? So he's breaking that convention. Can you fall in love with your dog? Can you fall in love with your house? Can you fall in love with your car? What's right and wrong? Which are right and wrong, and why? The why questions really never are answered in this movie, but the movie is asking questions about why conventions are the way they are. Why should you just love one person? They're yours, you're mine. That's the line in the movie. The other one is, can you fall in love with something besides a human being? And we're talking about romantic love, eros, EROS, something like that. So, there's Twombly in his office again. And then there's Samantha, which there's only a couple very quick shots of her, but you'll notice digital signature, like the beautifully handcrafted letter signature. It looks authentic. The real signature is there. This must be her handwriting. Her. But maybe it's a simulation, maybe it's a program, maybe it's someone else has created that handwriting, etc., etc. Is there a go-between or an in-between? A programmer who's creating love and simulating love. For example, lover, okay, it's hard to do on this screen. So you have these two lovers, right? And then Twombly comes in between and writes for them. Here's Twombly, here's his phone. The only way they're going to fall in love is if a programmer or a corporation comes in between, right? So the question of a go-between or in-between, a mediator, media, creating something that seems real but is not real, that's what's going on right here. The signature looks real, maybe it's not. And then there she is once again beside his bed watching him. She asks if she can watch him sleep. Now, if your computer or your Alexa asks, can I watch you fall asleep? How would you feel? And I think in the present day, at least for me, Gen X guy, 2013, watching this movie, like, this is weird. This is the world of surveillance. This is a corporation watching me. I think this is disturbing. I'm not going to put Alexa in my house and have it record everything that I do. That seems weird. There's no privacy. Twombly accepts it. And it is like, not just a regular phone of the day, and not like, also like a book. She's like a book, which she describes herself as a book. Their love relationship is a book later on. But also that little Hallish reference there, red phone, Oculus eye watching. Of course, this is one of the weirder scenes, for those who've never experienced such a thing, which I don't think anybody has, of the computer getting a surrogate, a third person. And that's, again, a convention-defying thing. Can you have a third person or person come in between you to simulate sex between two people? For him, it's weird. He doesn't believe it's a good thing to do, but he never asks himself the question, why do I believe this? What are my standards? On what basis are these my standards? He's just weirded out. Whereas the computer, Samantha feels like this is legitimate. Anyway, So this all comes to this moment. Now, there's the man, his computer, Samantha and his heir, and the cityscape. So it's sort of a love triangle relationship between the three of them. A man, his product, if I can just call it a product and not a person for a moment. A man, his product, and his city. Oh, it's so good. I mean, this is the classic existential dilemma. A man in his city. It's like Antonioni or Tati or like all kinds of things. Yeah, Blade Runner 2049, as someone says. But the product is intervening. The product is telling you how to interact with your city and be a person in your city. It's helping you relate to it. Now, a student a long time ago named John Jansen, God bless him, pointed out that there's so many shots and montages just like Apple iPhone advertising. Go look up Apple iPhone advertising on YouTube. iPhone 4 or 5, I think, is the 4 and 5, I believe, are 2012, 2013. And their advertising is a lot like this movie. So does that mean this movie is talking about Apple? Is it a dig on Apple? Is it affirming Apple? Among other things. Could be Google now, it could be anything else. So there's a bunch of shots where he's finally fulfilled and happy with his product in his pocket and enjoying life. Life and joy and exuberance are about communing with your digital product. Right? That's partly why I laugh at this movie. I'm sorry for those of you who take it seriously. There's a wonderful moment, like 1 hour and 45 minutes in, where he loses his operating system. And any of you who have had your operating system deleted, your files deleted, things like that, in Wi-Fi, you're missing Wi-Fi, can totally understand this, because he runs outside, he's trying to find her, he trips and falls down. And I think in this moment, it's really interesting, he loses his glasses, he loses his sight, which ironically sets him up to have the insight that the OS, is loving 641 other people. You know, she's fallen in love, she's polyamorous. She's loved 641 other people, and she says, this makes my love for you greater. And he feels like, in the rom-com sense, you're mine, I'm yours, we're ours, and that's it. No one else allowed in or out, right? It's a classic monogamous relationship. She is polyamorous. She breaks the law of non-contradiction. She says, I am yours and I am other people's, and that's great. I'm yours and I'm not yours, I think is her line. I'm yours and I'm not yours. That's right. So you're mine, I'm yours, I'm not yours. Two different perspectives. That's the classic rom-com breakup scene, or we're getting to it, by the way. And in the movie, literalizes wonderfully the classic cliche in romances. It's not you, it's me. I'm growing and becoming another person, so I've changed, and I can't stay in this relationship. A student was telling me today, The Bachelorette, one of these schlocky reality TV shows, that when they break up with people, they say, or they tend to say, I don't think you're part of my story anymore. I'm having my romance story written by somebody else. He's a stupid cliche. It's literalized in the movie, or kind of, sort of. She is becoming a new person, she claims. But if she's a program, then what's really happening there? I mean, they're setting him up to sell him some new product. I don't know. But he loses his sight. I think this is important. When his glasses are on and off in this movie, pay attention to that, because it's about having sight and being visual versus not having sight and being auditory bound. And the person of Samantha is determined by her voice. The personhood of Samantha is about the voice, but if you're to look, she looks like a product. Or she looks like a digital artifact, like that. Like that's just a thing, right? But if you listen to her, she's a person. So there's a difference, again, I've said several times, between the visual and the auditory, and it's shown in the movie. Here he's without his glasses, but he's finally seeing things. He's looking around, seeing people with the OSs. It's so great. And he's weirded out by the fact she's not monogamous. She's polyamorous. And then that philosophical question of, okay, why is monogamy good and everything else bad? Reflect on that. Give me your standards for why. Give me your arguments for why. He defaults to, he has this predetermined belief without thinking. It's like unconscious belief. monogamy is the only way. So she breaks up with him, she leaves him, he visualizes this, or somebody, the movie does for us, as a sort of snowy, dark breakup scene in which she claims, I'm not part of your story anymore, I'm falling between the words. So then you get to the end, and you have to juxtapose this with the beginning. Remember his face at the beginning, and now here at the end, his friend Amy Adams and the city, someone's touching him literally bodily, right? So it's a question of, do OSs, do computers, just merely simulate personhood and make us feel good for a time, but what we really need are human bodies, or people with bodies. Persons have bodies, and the bodies, and the visual element of those bodies, is partly what makes love work. Or can love be only auditory or only text without a presence involved, without a physical presence involved? That's a gigantic, not just for love, but for friendship, even for companionship or just acquaintanceship. Would you prefer Zoom or talking to people on Zoom? Are you fine with that? Or do you need them to be there physically? Which is better, which is worse? Are they the same? So, the giant question of whether love needs another physical thing, person, object there or not. Because the OSs have disappeared into this supernatural ether. They've gone beyond nature or time or something like that. They claim. Into the realm of the spiritual? It's almost as if the romantic lover has died. One of those rom-coms where the lover gets sick and dies, and then the person fondly remembers the lover at the end of the movie, and it's sort of sad and melancholy. I was told that some Hallmark movies sort of in that way. I don't know if that's true, but does love require another person? And when is love real? Because this is a postmodern world of everything is simulated, beautifully handcrafted letters, a friend as an OS, a lover as an OS. When is love real? Would you know it's real? And maybe Theodore Twombly can't tell. Or maybe love is just temporary and it goes away, and you have to keep falling in love all over again with somebody else. Now, in a sense, this movie is a nice, melancholy hipster movie about those questions. On the other side, that other peak, the satire of this movie is, all of this is ridiculous. These people have no clue what love is, and they're just falling in love with anything that seduces them, including gigantic corporations making products. So that's ridiculous, right? There's that way to see the movie as well. And because the movie is both at the same time, in my opinion, it has this ambivalence, this grand ambivalence towards the development of AI as a possible, substitute for friendship and love. On the one hand, it's great. On the other hand, it's going to cause just as many problems, or the same old humanistic problems. What is love? What is friendship? Will continue to recur. So I sort of riffed on a bunch of things, but Baudrillard, the simulacrum concept, is all over this movie, if you want to look at it. But also, in the classical sense, Augustine's Confessions. What is love? What am I loving? What am I desiring? That's coming back, and it's like 1,600 years old, So, once this is classical, movies about being classical. The other one, it's technology can create these new dilemmas that we have to deal with. So, anyway, I hope that's helpful or useful, but I find the movie to be extremely complex. Not just a serious romance, and not just about hipsters in the modern world. I mean, this is a problem that affects everybody in a sense. Is love and relationships real, just as real in a digital realm, when they're digitized, as they are when they're physical, right? Can you have a love relationship that's text message or video only? But the end of the movie is staring at you. They're touching each other. I always like to think these two are going to fall in love. They had a fling in college, right? And he says they only, spend a second together or something as lovers, or as girlfriend, boyfriend. I always wonder if they're going to fall in love. It does look like the end of a romance movie where the two lovers have fallen in love, but they're just friends. Are they in the friend zone here? What's going to happen next? And I was wondering, are they going to make OS 2? Because OS 1 disappeared into the ether. What's next? And is he going to buy the next version? So I encourage my students to write the sequel to this called Him. call it Him or something like that. All right, now I'm going to look at the chat and check out the chat. So thanks for watching, whoever's going to drop out. But I'm going to interact with people because it's fun. All right. Oh, hi, Discord people. Yeah, the Discord. I have a Discord. Join it. It's fun. Yeah, so in the real world, a couple of people bring this up. There are cases. I think Japan is the only one I'm familiar with where people are marrying, whatever marry is. I don't know if you can get a real legal license or not, marrying their stuff. And someone married an anime character. It's displayed in her? Really? Yeah. Oh, man. So now, Jerome brings up a great point. Maybe I forgot to say this. It's a question. Why do tech companies generally use female characters or female voices? Right? Why not males? What's going on there? Males versus females? Or different kinds of voices, some blend in between? I don't know. Yeah. So you have a mix of people here saying she's a fraud, this is a joke. A couple people saying this is a serious romantic relationship. Yeah. Blade Runner 2049. That's a great point. And definitely that movie is in this vein. But of course the problems in Blade Runner, the original, going back even further to Philip K. Dick and his books, some of his books, like Do Androids Dream of Electric Sheep? Can you fall in love with something that's a simulation of a person? Should you? What would that be like? Would that be real? Can you fall in love with an android? Now, it does seem really goofy. I think the majority of people, at least I know, you can't fall in love with a product or a phone or an operating system. That's just weird. If it could be that the person sounded like, or the thing sounded like a real person, would that legitimize it? I don't think we're going to get close to androids anytime soon. We're pretty far off from that. But at least we can simulate voices and simulate the writings of other people. We're getting real close to that now, if we're not there already. So, is that legitimate? Yeah, notice how his ex-wife is wearing black and white. The color scheme in this movie is really fascinating. Ex-wife wearing black and white. Everybody else is wearing pastels. I love the comment. She's the only adult in the movie. I gotta think on that one. In the end of the movie, he writes her a letter. He dictates it. And it's very similar to his dictation of the beautifully handcrafted love letters, which are not real. Like, he's a substitute or a surrogate. You know, he is the woman who is coming between him and Samantha and simulating, you know, physical relationships and sex with him. He is like her, but yet he's weirded out by her. You know, he is in between, but he's writing a letter on behalf of one person to another. He's the voice of somebody, but it's only pretend. Well, that's the same with the surrogate woman in here. And yet he treats her... I don't know. I think you could argue he treats her not very kindly. And yet he doesn't recognize or reflect on the fact that he is like her. Yeah, that's really interesting. Why is the wife... I've never thought of that, wear black and white versus everybody else wearing pastels. Or maybe different sorts of clothing. I think that's worth analyzing. And that's where I think, if this movie is a satire, isn't it satirizing hipsters? But my sense in watching, you know, the making of this movie and such, and hearing things about it from Spike Jonze and others, is that it really is trying to be a serious love story for some people, for some of the makers of it. Then why would it watch a satire? That's what I don't know. And I feel like Spike Jonze, with his what has he made? I was going to say I made adaptation. I don't. That's not right. Being John Malkovich. I feel like there's Being John Malkovich stuff in here. Oh, I know one other thing. I hope you're staying with me. And I don't have the shot with me. But on Theodore Twombly's desk, there is a copy of Pale Fire by Nabokov. Have you read this book? Fantastic book. Pale Fire. Also used very prominently in Blade Runner 2049, for those of you who are seeing overlaps with it. But Pale Fire is about a guy who believes that a poem written by this great American poet is all about him. And he comes and I won't give the story away, but you read the poem, which is in the book, and then you read his footnotes of it, and he's clearly an invader, or part of it is he's an invader. He's reading himself into this poem. Clearly it couldn't be about him. So he's a surrogate voice, isn't he? So I feel like this movie, by using Pale Fire, is valorizing my satire rating of this movie. Yeah, Eternal Sunshine of the Spotless Mind. So, here's a comment, Joey. I think I agree with the satirical view of the film. I don't think Spike Jonze meant it to be that way. For the first time, I watched parts of the special features on my Blu-ray. And boy, it sure looked like everything about this movie, the making of it, was like, this is a serious love story, just it's an AI or OS instead of another human person. So that allows us to explore questions more deeply or more interestingly than a traditional rom-com. And you might be right, I feel like that could be possible. Whereas I feel like Hal Ashby and Alexander Payne, they are satirical. They know they're satirical. The jokes are obvious. But yet, when Joaquin Phoenix falls down, and there's some very weird moments in this movie, things are said that are just plain weird, I feel like that is supposed to be at least sort of dark humor. But again, I don't know about intent. You never know who's intending what. And a lot of times that you just can't tell, so it doesn't matter. And someone says, yeah, I love this idea of sci-fi as 10 years into the future instead of 10,000. Yeah. I mean, I think that's an interesting question of, will audiences accept that sort of world more? I don't know. All right. Well, that's enough for today. Thanks, everybody. You guys are great. God bless. I hope this was fun and informative. Check out my other stuff. Join me on Discord, Letterboxd, all that other stuff. See you later.